Let me tell you about a dispute that my kids have almost every single weekend, right? So Jalen, my youngest, right? Okay, so first of all, they normally play Xbox together. And then they have times where they just can't agree on the game and they just kind of sit there in the menus, right? So Jalen would say, Eric, you play by yourself. And then I'll play by myself for X amount of time. And then they kind of have worked this thing out on their own. But then there are times when Eric's just like, no, I don't want to play by myself. And I'm like, well, why? And he's like, because Jalen wants to play by himself and he's going to play the game that he wants to play. But it's like, Eric, you guys are both sitting here for the last 5 minutes in the menus. You can't agree on a game because you want to play a particular game and then he wants to play a different game. Yeah, but he's trying to play by himself. Eric, that means you get to play by yourself, and he's even letting you go first. And I just never, every time I'm like, this makes no sense for you to have a problem with this, unless you specifically want to play a co-op game, which is not the case. It's not that he wants to play a co-op game. He just doesn't want to be bored later while Jalen's playing the game. He doesn't want that, whatever. So the reason why that's just so silly. Now the reason why I mention that is because when I think about Trump and how people are taking it, like he asked for a list of people from the NFL players. He asked for a list of people that they feel like ought to be pardoned, or they have they're in jail, they have problems with the prison system and everything. So okay, name some people that should be pardoned or exonerated or whatever the different terms are and what they mean. And hopefully there'll be a list soon if there isn't one already. As far as I know, I haven't heard anything, but this is what I don't understand. And the reason why I think this is funny. Like Eric, like my son Eric. Regardless of what the other person, regardless of the motives of the other person, if they're giving you something that you actually want anyway, like if they're giving you a good thing, then take it. There is no, okay, so, Eric's whole purpose is he wanted to play the game that he wanted to play. Jalen's giving you that. There's a compromise on the back end of it, but you're getting what you want ultimately. And with the NFL players, and just with people when it comes to working with Trump in general, it's like, oh, I think he has bad motives. So even though he suggested the possibility of freeing some black people from prison that were unjustly incarcerated and unfairly punished by the system, even though we could possibly have some of these people out, we're going to, because he's a bad person and I don't think he cares about black people, I'm going to say no. This doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. This is dumb. That's almost as dumb as Bill Maher saying he would rather us have a recession and have the economy, the whole entire country, suffer than to have Trump as president. Think about that. He'd rather have the entire country suffer rather than have this president for 4 years. Recessions can take a long time to get out of. I remember it in the Bible, in the Old Testament. I wish I could remember who it was. It was one of the times when Israel was in, what do you call it? When they're taken away. I can't even remember. Let's just say captivity. Yeah. There was a time when Israel was in captivity. And, they were taken from their land and their temple was shattered and their country was just ruined and their women were taken. And I cannot remember. It's been a while since I read it, but I remember the ruler of the foreign land that they were in. He actually let Israelites go back to Israel, to Jerusalem, to rebuild their temple, to have their country back. He actually let their ruler, this oppressive, evil, non-believing, non-Israelite ruler, he actually allowed them to go back, and he sent people back, and he sent tools, and he sent money and stuff, and he allowed them to rebuild their city. Can you imagine what it would have been like if the Israelites said, And then, as far as we know, he wasn't really a believer. He was like a pagan god, a pagan ruler who believed in pagan gods. So his motives were probably like, well, their God might be real, so let me just cover all my bases with all the gods. That way, I won't be punished by nobody. Or it could have been for bragging. His motives could have been completely bizarre. But what the Israelites wanted was to be able to go back to their own country and to have the temple and worship their own God. Because when they were in a foreign land, they were forced to worship other gods and to do other pagan practices, things that they couldn't stand, right? So what if they had said, no, we're not going to go back and build up our country because you just doing it so you can look good? What? That makes no sense whatsoever. So many different things, and just think about how the media looks at Trump. You can hate Trump, you can think he's a moron. There's a lot of reasons why that people dislike him, and I understand most of them. But if the economy's going well, hey man, the economy's going well. Even if you don't want to attribute it to him, which y'all need to get over that, but even if you say it's not because of Trump, it's because of Obama, or it's because of something else, I'm not going to argue with you. I can't argue with you, but I'm not. What I'm going to say is, regardless of who did it, it's continuing or getting better with him there. When the media, when he first got elected, was telling you, they were preaching fire and brimstone. They said this country was going to be chaos as soon as he was in office. White people were going to take over, and it would just blatantly be out in the streets trying to kill black people, and people were saying that they were going to leave the country. Remember all of that? How convenient. Like, how short of memories do people have? Because we were told all of these terrible things were going to happen when he become president, and then next thing you know, the economy's booming, unemployment is low. Unemployment for black people is doing the best that it's done in the last 20 years. But instead of people saying, hey, you know what? He's steering the ship kind of okay. I don't really like him as a person, or I don't like him as a person or his policies, but so far, things are still going pretty good. People don't say that. They're like, you got people like Nancy Pelosi saying, well, so what, the unemployment is the lowest it's ever been. If they're not getting paid good money, then it doesn't matter. Really? Tell it to the person who didn't have a job. That is so disrespectful. Now, let me ask you something. Do you think that this woman, if she was at a town hall or something, and people were saying, look, our unemployment is at X number, and we're struggling. There are so many people that don't have jobs. Do you think that woman's going to say to them, well, it's not just about the job, it's about how much you get paid? Or is she going to say, well, we're working on that. Vote for me and I'll change unemployment and I'll get you a job? She wouldn't tell them that. She wouldn't say, well, it doesn't matter. Jobs don't matter if you're not getting paid enough. Or Jay-Z saying, jobs don't matter if you're not getting respect. Who's not respecting you? One of the most respectful things you can do is give someone a legitimate job where you're paying them and you're giving them responsibilities. It's crazy that you hear these rich people saying that. You will not hear a person who's digging in the garbage for scraps, or someone who's staring at their refrigerator trying to figure out what they're going to feed their kids, and they get a job, and then now they can feed their kids. You're not going to hear the average person saying that. That's what politicians say. That's what wealthy people say, because they don't care about the average person. They don't. All they care about is making their opposition look bad. And that's why it bugs me to hear wealthy people talking about oppression, and wealthy people saying like what they did. And Don Lemon said, I think he may have said the same thing as Jay-Z, like, well, a job doesn't matter if you don't have respect with it. Really? Like, what person that's desperate for a job right now is going to say that if they have a chance to get a job that's going to give them more income? No one's going to say that. And obviously, if you have common sense, you know no one wants a job and to be treated like a slave or anything like that. But that's not what they're talking about. What they're talking about is, a job doesn't matter if you still live in a country that still has racism. That's what they're talking about. Well, so I guess our ancestors who lived in the time of slavery, or not slavery, Jim Crow. I guess our ancestors that lived during the time of Jim Crow and the intense racism that they faced, I guess them having jobs didn't matter because they weren't treated with respect by society. So they shouldn't have worked. They should have just said, yeah, well, I'm not going to work because this is worthless. Think about how stupid people sound to go out of their way to not give credit to their political enemy. People will rather you suffer. People, and I believe this with every ounce of my heart, Democrats would rather see this country suffer than to see Trump succeed and have to give him credit for it. Now, by a Democrat, I mean the leaders, the leadership, not the average everyday person, even though some of them are probably like that too. I'm talking about the ones you see on the camera all the time, the politicians. That's why a lot of people say facts over feelings. Like, you can't be so caught up in your emotions that you can't deal with someone. That's not good. That's unhealthy. And it's like you got people that don't want to work with Trump because now, okay, you don't want to work with Trump because you don't like him. But then you got people that don't want to work with Trump because the culture has created such an environment that even if you try to work with a man, then you become demonized and you lose your blackness, or they call you a racist or whatever. That's stupid. Like, he's, regardless whether you like him or not, he's like the most powerful man in the world. And whether you like him or not, whether his intentions are good or not, whether his intentions are pure or not, he can still do some things for you to where y'all both benefit. Let's assuming that he just wants to do things to puff his chest out. Let him do that. But on the other side of it, you get the things that you want, that you feel as though your community needs. Do you understand business? Like, business, you don't have to like the people you do business with. You don't have to like the people you work with. But if they have something that they can do for you, and you have something that you can do for them, and it benefit you, then do it. Why would you not do it? That's just stupid. I really feel like, and then the other thing about Trump is that what he does is he calls people out. He called out Kim Jong-un. He called out China. He called out basically like all of our allies with the whole trade thing. What Trump is Trump feels strongly about what he feels strongly about. He is who he is, good, bad, or indifferent. And that's the one thing that I like about him, is that he is who he is, and you're not going to change him. That's one thing y'all should like about him, that you're not going to change him. So when it comes to a politician, that's good, because you had other politicians like Hillary Clinton. You got, when you look at immigration, abortion, same-sex marriage, all of these, like all of the most important things that kind of came up in this election, Hillary Clinton flip-flops on those things. But in the past, she was against all of that stuff. Now she's for it because that's what the culture wants. Basically, she switches up for votes. Now, what is the mark of corruption for a politician? Switching up for votes, switching up for money. And she has a long history of both. So it's like, you don't want a politician who's just going to sway with the wind. Like, that's often y'all concerned with politicians, right? That they're just going to go to they're going to advocate for the highest bidder. Well, now you have a guy that even if you don't like his position on certain things, you have a guy that's not going to be chumped by nobody. He got his own money. You know what I mean? Like, he is who he is, and he don't back down from nobody. He don't back down from nobody. It's nice to see that. I don't agree with everything he does, and his personal life is just like crazy. But like, the whole point is that man gave people an opportunity. Think about it. Kim Kardashian got somebody free from prison. Like, what if Meek Mills would have went there and advocated for a particular activist, somebody that was like like a Sean King type, which I'm not a fan of Sean King, but somebody that advocates on that level, because that's what most people generally seem to want. What if Meek Mill could have talked to Trump, and he could have looked at this person, and this person could have got out of jail, right? And then continued their work for the community and fighting injustice. Y'all so busy looking at, y'all so busy doing the whole clique thing, the whole cult thing. Oh, don't associate, the whole gang thing. Like y'all, like this, y'all treat politics like it's a gang. Oh, you talking to him? Oh, we ain't cool no more. Like, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like, Trump is the president of the country. So whether you like him or not, if there's an opportunity for black people to have a meeting with him and to actually influence him, even if you think he's a terrible person, he's still capable of having moments of mercy and justice and common sense. So why would you ever pass that up? I know why. Because you got to pass it up because of how it's going to look to other people. You got to pass it up because part of being black these days is kind of having this cred of oppression, and it's like part of the culture to not want to work with Trump. So you've created a culture. It's just dumb. It's like the Pharisees. It's like how the Pharisees was with Jesus. Like, yeah, I understand, like, they didn't have to like him or agree with everything he said. But it was kind of like, like, when a man can heal somebody and you're mad at him because he healed them on Sunday, the Saturday, Sabbath. You're mad when he healed them on the Sabbath, and your anger from him healing on the Sabbath overrules the fact that this man in front of you healed somebody. Now it says that a man came to Jesus on the Sabbath, and I think it might have been in the synagogue, and it said that the Pharisees looked to see if he was going to heal on the Sabbath. So they knew he could heal. They knew he could heal. But they're like, let's see if he does it on the Sabbath. So and then Jesus was like, which does it make sense? You know, does it make sense to do good on the Sabbath or evil? They didn't say nothing. We're just going to watch and see. Then Jesus heals a man on the Sabbath, changes that man's life, like, does a miracle. Jesus did a miracle. And because of their anger and their disdain for him, they completely missed the miracle. So my whole point is, you don't have to like people for them to be able to do things that benefit you. And you got to get out this whole mindset, this stupid mindset that just because you dislike Trump, you're automatically smarter, or it's more important to not associate with Trump and to worry about what people say than it is to take advantage of opportunities to better yourself or your people. That's just stupid. I mean, again, just think about, what if the Israelites had said, we're not going to go back and build up our temple. We're not going to build the walls around our city because the guy that sent us there is just trying to puff his chest out, but he's going to take credit for it. That is just so freaking stupid.